Three, two, one, crack.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of A Beer and Review.
So pour it high and let it gleam. This is the podcast, Sip and Dream. Stay for the fun, we've got more to do. Oh yeah, it's A Beer and Review.
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. That is the song. That is the intro. Those are the cracking of beers for A Beer and Review. This is episode 125, The Green Knight. I am your host for the evening, Luke Walker, joined as always by my dearest friend in this whole entire world, Mr. Lane Good.
Hello, everybody.
And perhaps we will be joined at another point by our other dear friend, Mr. Keith Fuchs, but we're not quite sure what's going on there. So we'll leave that one open for now. If you're new to A Beer and Review, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. It's a pretty simple concept. We watched a movie. In this case, that movie is The Green Knight. We're going to review that movie, and while we do it, well, normally we would drink a beer. But there was a little snafu. Snafu? Is that the word?
I think so.
That doesn't sound like a real word, but it is what happened. Normally we would pick out a beer, a unique beer. Sometimes we try to make it, tied to the movie in some way. Usually we go to Total Wine. Unfortunately, today I went to pick out said beer, picked out a phenomenal beer that would have been perfectly, matching or like relevant with the movie. However, we've done that beer before.
We have. It was the second I saw you send the picture, I said, oh no, that is very familiar. But I want to give you a lot of shit, but I have also made that mistake before. So once you get to 125 episodes, you're going to see some repeat beers. And instead of doing that, we figured we would just kind of drink whatever we had in the old beer fridge. So I'm drinking some ice cold Corona this evening.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of crazy. It's like we have, for almost every episode done a unique beer. So we're at like close to 120 plus unique beers that we've done on the podcast. So, it's going to happen. What are you going to do? So you're drinking a Corona. I myself am drinking a little wine this evening, which I felt was, worked. Anytime we're like doing medieval kind of stuff, it just seems like wine makes sense to me. And I'm drinking some Charles Woodson's Intercept.
Ooh.
The Pinot Noir Charles Woodson wine, because we got the NFL draft going on right now. I'm very excited about the Raiders. We're just crushing the draft, just taking all the best players. Everyone else is just taking these, absolute jabronis. Your team not excluded from that, and we're just taking all the best players. So that's really great. So anyways, before we get into anything too crazy, we'll take a ceremonial swig of our respective beverages. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, everybody.
Charles Woodson does make a damn fine wine. I will tell you that. I really only drink it once a year. I drink it on draft night. I'll go get an Intercept. It's phenomenal.
Look at that.
All right. So if you're here, thank you for being here. Do all the stuff. Do the ratings, the reviews, the follows, all that shit. We're on all the social medias. You can find us on Spotify, leave comments, do all those fun things. But before, after you do all that, listen to us talk. And that's what we're going to do now. Lane Good, how you doing this evening, bud? It's a Friday night. We're done with the work week. How was it?
Absolutely. It was a solid week at the old office. Today I went and played some golf at a very pristine golf course, which we both love to do. It was a mountain course too, which, in the golf world, I think those are my favorite types of courses, are the mountain courses. So had a good day.
I would agree with you. Mountain golf is wonderful.
Yeah, pristine. So beautiful day. Excited to talk a interesting movie. I'm missing Keith. I wish he was here. I felt like this podcast would have been a little combative, a little 2-on-1 and me kind of defending, which I was a little excited for. But this will be a different tone. And I'm excited to chat with you this evening.
Yeah, excellent. We won't preview it too much because we will get into it soon here. But before we do any of that, we like to talk about what else you've been watching, we're cultured men, cultured folks. We're checking out lots of different stuff. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. So Lane, since the last time I saw you, what you been watching?
You just mentioned how cultured we are. I've been watching nothing, so
Okay.
I'm not very cultured.
You're less
this
cultured.
week.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It happens to the best of us.
All right. Well, I've been watching not a ton. Some NBA playoffs, the draft. Although I did watch the one movie outside of this movie that I did watch. I watched Godzilla -1.
Ooh, love that for you.
Got it back here. It's one of the 4 movies that I've bought a little tin poster for, mostly because they're hard to find. And fuck, that movie is so good. It's deep cut. Experienced listeners of the podcast will know that we actually did a -1. We've mentioned it a couple times. We did record an episode on Godzilla -1. Unfortunately, I was in no condition. My wife and kids were out of town. I played golf all day. I'd driven 3 hours, to and from golf course. I was under the influence of some number of substances, and I just did not bring my goodness to that podcast. And we made the executive decision not to air it, which I think was good. But we do have a Godzilla -0 coming out later this year. The trailer just came out recently, and so I think we have an opportunity to do like maybe a Godzilla -1 revisit before we do Godzilla -0 later this year. But god damn, that's a good movie. It's just an excellent flick.
Yep. From the moment it starts to the moment it ends, it's just an unbelievable journey, an unbelievable ride. The fact that they made a good Godzilla, not even a good Godzilla, an amazing Godzilla movie.
It's a genuinely amazing movie. Like you could almost take out every scene that has Godzilla in it and still have a good movie. That's what's really cool about it. Anyways, we'll do that later. We'll get to that later. All right. So we don't have a beer to talk about today, so let's just get into this flick, shallst we?
I can't wait.
All right. So this is The Green Knight, the 2021 flick by David Lowery. The credited writers are David Lowery and Gawain Poet. I don't even care to click on that. Starring Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, and some CGI that isn't very good. Let's see. So that's the movie. We got a runtime of 2 hours and 10. Some would say feels a little longer. Some might not say any longer. All right, we don't have to talk about a beer connection, so I'll just get into a very quick plot synopsis that I did not write down, so I'm just going to get into it if you're ready.
Bring it on.
All right, so we're set in kind of, like the Middle Ages or the medieval times, I would say. And this is a fantasy retelling of the medieval story of Sir Gawain. What happens is we find out that Sir Gawain is like somehow related. He's like the step brother, or not step brother, but like brother-in-law of the king. And while at a Christmas gala, Christmas party, the Green Knight shows up. He is like a tree person, and he challenges the king and all of his court to a Christmas game, as they call it. And the premise of the game is that if somebody can strike him, right, they want to do he wants to do one-on-one combat, and if somebody can strike him, they win or whatever. But a year later, he will strike them in the same way that they struck him during the fight. And so during this battle, the Green Knight gives himself up immediately to have his head chopped off. And so our Sir Gawain chops his head off. His head obviously regrows because he's like a tree person. And so then we understand that a year from now, Sir Gawain is going to have to go to the Green Chapel to receive his head chopping off. And so the movie is primarily a, following Sir Gawain's journey, from wherever his little kingdom is to the Green Chapel, where he will then have his head chopped off. That's the movie. A bunch of other shit happens, but did I miss anything that's super relevant to the 30,000 foot view plot synopsis?
Not to the 30,000 foot. I think you did a good job. I think we run into a lot of interesting characters. We have a lot of interesting side stories. But I think the fact that this is one big journey to go get your head chopped off is the basic premise of this movie.
Yep, it's pretty much what it is because that's what we understand. Yep, a lot of things happen. You call them interesting. I may have different descriptions of them. But before we do any of that, let's get into the very first thing that happens in this movie because first things must always be first. So let's get into a little bit of Lane Love's first scenes. Lane, break down the very first scene of this movie for us.
I would love to. It hits us with an A24. This is an A24 flick. I don't think we mentioned that. And then we immediately jump into this, black screen and this creepy voice saying, giving us a little voiceover. Hey, here's a story of these medieval times. You know the story of King Arthur and the sword and the stone. This is not that story, but it is that time. It is this world. We do see Merlin at the very beginning. The king is King Arthur and his wife Guinevere, I think. I'm not, very good at all this lore, but that's kind of the world that we're living in. And we see Dev Patel in the crown, which is a fucking sick crown, mind you, sitting there, and it's zooming in, and out of nowhere, his head catches on fire. Boom, things get crazy. And that is really the opening, because like we talked about last week, I want to keep the opening nice and tight. So that's the first minute or so. And I really enjoy it. I think it does a good job of, again, getting us in the time period. We're not getting a lot about the characters, but we do know that this dude, he doesn't have a good future ahead of him. We know that things are going to be difficult. Things are going to crash and burn. He's going to have a rocky road, and we're about to experience that journey. And I liked it. I thought it was a good opening. And then obviously we get a lot more with the opening with the Green Knight, which I'm very excited to get into. But just that first little voiceover I thought was really spooky. It's the director, whatever you said his name was, Leighton, and his wife, Lowry, and his wife were reading this at the same time. And they kind of just mixed it over and turned it into this nice creepy voice, which I liked.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepy voice stuff going on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do like your breakdown of it a little bit. It makes me kind of rethink my position on the opening, because I kind of forgot about the opening scene, to be honest with you, because it doesn't tie directly into the actual story. It is more symbolic, I guess.
Most of this movie is.
Yeah, and it was fine. Okay, so let's get into real quickly kind of our relationship with this movie. I'll go first. I remember when this movie was coming out, big Dev Patel fan. I think that basically everything he's been in, I thought I've seen most of his work, probably not all of it. I've seen most of his movies. I enjoy them. Every one that I've seen, I've enjoyed. And I remember seeing this movie, not really knowing what it was or what it was about. But I will admit, what I remember was it was like what I remember thinking was that it was a kind of medieval knights movie with Dev Patel that like had a darker tone, and it was kind of a just a little grittier and darker, which is not what it is. That kind of is what it is. But I do think I had a little bit of influence of The Black Knight, which we've been talking about in our group chat. I do think that in my mind, I thought this was a movie where an Indian guy somehow gets pulled into the medieval times to be a knight.
Which it's very clearly not, but
it's not that. It has nothing to do with him being Indian, which a gripe of mine, which I'll get to. So I kind of did think it was like similar to The Black Knight, just starring an Indian fella, which it's not. And so that was my only relationship to the movie. It is a movie that I remember when it came out and I'd been wanting to see, for a while. So I wasn't all that upset when you suggested this movie. because it's been on my watch list. But what is your relationship with this movie? Why is it that you decided that this was the movie we needed to do this week for the podcast?
It's a movie that I first watched, similar to you. I was excited to watch it. I had heard about it, but the first time I watched it was on an airplane. And
Oh.
so there's something about because I hate flying. I'm sure people, the listeners of the podcast, know that, but just something when I'm sitting there and I feel like I'm so locked into a movie on a plane because I'm trying to focus on the fact that I'm not flying through the air in a metal tin surrounded by a bunch of strangers that could be the people I die next to. So when you watch a movie like that, I just feel like I really get into it. And it was such a journey. I had no idea what to expect. And the fact that, again, he has to go just travel to get his head cut off, and the people he runs into and the tension that builds along the way, and the character, how much he changes his character arc, I think is just so awesome. And again, especially the last 20 minutes of the movie. So I'm really glad you finished it, because I think it's just an awesome character story. Even though it's not a time that I live in, I really can't relate to. I'm never going to be king. There's no fantasy in this world, but it's still a character growing and becoming, a knight.
Sure. Okay, let's get into a little character draft. Just so we know who the players are, the chess pieces on the board. There's only the two of us, so we'll only get through 4, which I think is fine. There's not a ton of characters in it. There's actually only the credited cast was only 46. So, I mean, there's not really that many characters in the movie anyways. So let's go ahead and have you pick a random number between 1 through 25, and that'll determine our draft position.
I will go number 17.
All right. I will go with number 7.
Great.
And our number is 15. So you
Look
are
at
the
me.
winner. Yep.
For my first pick, again, this is our character draft where we're picking not necessarily, our favorite characters. It's not the best or it's just the most fun.
It's based on no criteria whatsoever.
Yep. Especially if you watched last week, I just got grilled for my character picks.
Yeah.
But this one, I'm going to be going with right down the middle, the Green Knight. I think he is just such an unbelievable, dark, strong presence. The second the doors open and he's standing there, he just dominates the room. His voice with Ralph Ineson is just so deep, and he talks like this, and I just love how thank you.
I liked that.
I loved how gravelly he is, and it's just perfect for a character who is part nature. He sets his axe down and grass grows off of it. I'd love to talk about how he's summoned, and the fact that he just lays down and takes it. I love the Green Chapel at the end, his little home. It's so cool. And again, the final line, well, off with your head. It's just so, so good. Everything about him when he's on the screen, I couldn't get enough of it. My favorite character, and the reason why I like this movie so much, is the Green Knight.
Okay. I will go with Essel / the lady, played by Alicia Vikander, primarily because she is crazy hot in this movie. Probably the most redeeming part of the movie, in my opinion, was just her presence. And so for no other reason than that, I will pick her. There's some scenes that we'll talk about later involving her. But man, she was real hot in this movie. So I'm going to take her for that reason. My second pick, and I guess this partly is influenced by other movies we've done, and just kind of just the actor more so than the character. But I'm going to go with Barry Keoghan's Scavenger.
Yeah,
he was, Barry Keoghan, man. He's just creepy as fuck, dude. And when he is on the screen, he just makes you feel things, and he makes most of those things are uncomfortable and unsettled and creeped out. But I think that makes for a good character. His little, creepy guy walking through the battlefield ashes of people where his brothers apparently had been killed, and then he is kind of robbing the Green Knight and just being a creep, dude. And I enjoyed his performance. As much as I like hate his characters, as awful as they're awful people, awful, creepy, disgusting humans. They're great characters. So I will take Barry Keoghan's Scavenger.
I love that. I will go with Dev Patel's Gawain. I think he's awesome. I love his character development. I mentioned it. He starts out spending Christmas Eve at a brothel with his main lady Essel. I love that when he sits next to the
No,
king.
not Essel. She's a different one. Essel's the hot girl from the
Whatever, the short-haired one.
yeah.
It's played by the same actress.
Is it?
Yeah. The girl from the beginning and the lady are the same actress.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So maybe she is Essel, and then the one in the
Is the lady.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
That's a good thing to clarify.
Yep. And then when he sits down with the king, and the king's like, I regret not having a relationship with you. This is our chance. It's Christmas. Tell me a story. I want to learn about you. And he's like, dude, I got nothing. I'm kind of like a giant piece of shit. And this is his one chance to prove to himself and to everybody that he's an honorable, good person. And he just fails over and over and over again until he gets to the Green Knight in the Green Chapel. And then he fails again. And eventually he gets to, he overcomes all of his failure to, become an honorable person. And I'm excited to talk about the end, but just his journey, my God, I loved it so much. He is such a good actor. He portrays just fear so well. He portrays bravado so well. I just think he does an unbelievable job in this movie. We are huge Dev Patel fans.
Amen to that. Huge Dev Patel fan. However, that segues nicely into one of the first things I wanted to talk about, which is, why is it, do you think, that they chose an Indian fella to be a medieval knight?
Yep. There was something on IMDb where the director was at Paris Fashion Week or some kind of fashion week, and Dev Patel was walking, and I guess he said that he looked so elegant and so like, I don't know,
regal,
like a knight. Yeah, a regal. What a great word. That he just had to cast him basically there on the spot just because of the way he looked. And is it kind of out of left field? Sure, but he does an amazing job.
Yeah, he's a very Indian person. I mean, I think the big thing we all met him from was Slumdog Millionaire, where he is an Indian fella. And he was then in Life of Pi, where again he was an Indian fella. He's an Indian guy. And so to me it was just a little strange to start. I will say it didn't distract me too much throughout the movie. I think throughout the movie, is that the accent that he speaks with it matches, right? It's fine. He just kind of seems like he's very tan, maybe he's just a tan Irishman or wherever they are in this medieval time. It doesn't make any sense though that he would be the main actor in this movie, but it was only slightly distracting, I would say.
Yeah, see, for me, it just didn't matter. I just thought he did such a good job, and
he definitely does a good job. But
yeah,
he's Dev Patel. What are we doing? He's a fucking Indian guy, and he's like a medieval knight. I don't know. Strange casting, very odd casting choice. There's a lot of odd choices in this movie. So before we get into some of the odd choices, let's just set up. I want to talk about the setup of the movie, because I don't want to spend this entire podcast shitting on this movie, because there will be time for that. Don't you worry. The story is pretty cool.
Yes.
I'll give you that, right? So the idea, it doesn't really make any sense, but it's kind of cool. And so we have this party or whatever on Christmas.
Yeah. Do you know why
Right.
the Green Knight shows up?
Nope, of course not, because it's not explained.
So his mother, the lady with the white bandages over her face, she does a ritual to summon the Green Knight. She does it as like a challenge, I think, as like a challenge to get this kid who's a piece of shit. Remember, because she rips him earlier. He's like, "Oh, I was in church," and she's like, "What were you drinking this Sacramento wine all night?" And so she summons the Green Knight to challenge him and get him, like, push her baby boy out of the nest.
Was that in the movie? I don't remember that at all.
At the very beginning, there she's like sitting around and like doing a little chant with 3 other ladies, and then she like
Man.
writes.
I just
on the
watched
note-
this like last night and the night before.
Yeah.
I don't remember that a bit.
Okay, well, that's why I'm here, man.
Okay. So he's the like brother-in-law of the king.
He's the nephew of the king.
Okay, right. And so then the Green Knight shows up. The Green Knight has this challenge. The challenge doesn't make any sense.
No, I'll give you that. But it's a fun Christmas game. I mean, this is what people were doing back then. I mean, there's jousting.
In what
there's
way
all-
is it a game? It doesn't make any
For
goddamn
sure.
sense. It doesn't make any sense. If you hit me, I will then come back and hit you in the same way.
But here's the thing: it's a test of Gawain's character, right? That's the whole this whole movie is. And so he has a defenseless guy in front of him. He could just go up and nick him on the cheek. They could all shake hands and have a dinner, and it's all fun Christmas game, right? But what he does is chops the dude's head off,
Which is
and-
so dumb. It's the dumbest possible thing you could have done.
Yeah, but he's like, he's immature, he's dishonest, he's cowardly, he's never really been in a situation like this, and he's like he talked to him, the Green Knight just has his head bent. He goes, "Okay, if this is what we're doing, fuck you." Bang, chops his head off, and he's like celebrated, right? For a year, he's like the shit. He's the man around town. Obviously, doesn't always go that way, but I know it's a very weird premise for a movie, but I think it's an awesome, tense story.
I thought it was dumb. Like, very obviously, like, that's the only thing you can't do is kill the guy, because then you're dead, right? It's very dumb. Also,
But he
it's
did
like,
get
okay,
that sick axe too.
and then so you chop the guy's head off and it just grows back and he laughs at you, which was I did kind of dig the like sinisterness, the sinisteriality of him putting his head back on or growing back or however that happened, and then him like laughing. Right. I enjoyed this, like how sinister that was, but it was also just like very dumb. It was just like, okay, now you got to get your head chopped off in a year.
Yeah, and but imagine sitting with that every day. And so what are you going to do?
Right, but like no one would do that. No one would chop his head off.
One man did, Sir Gawain.
Unless you're fucking idiot. Okay. So then we get into
the test, his journey.
So a year passes. He spends the year drinking and being a piece of shit
and doing basically nothing to better
prepare
himself for society
or do
prepare.
anything.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Banging some whore. Which, if my life was coming to an end, who knows? Who might have said?
Who knows?
So then he's got this journey, and the start of his journey is like, fine, cool. I kind of dug those scenes, right? He's just kind of driving, riding his horse. He comes up against the scavenger, the Barry Keoghan character, who's creepier than shit. He gives him some directions, and then Barry Keoghan, scavenger, and some other folks kind of rob him and tie him up. So then this is where the movie then just for the next hour to hour and a half is a series of things that make no sense.
Okay.
And are pointless, in my opinion. So one, and this to me was a huge plot hole. They tie him up, they take his axe. Barry Keoghan takes his axe and gets on his horse and rides away.
Yeah.
Then he's just like laying there. And then for some reason, there's a scene where he's a skeleton and then he's not a skeleton anymore. And then he, inchworms over to a sword that's just laying there because the other two scavengers have disappeared at this point. I guess they just left him there to die. I don't know. He cuts himself free on a sword. And then he's just free to go. Sure, fine. Okay, whatever. None of this makes any sense. He then like wanders down into like a marshy, swampy, foggy area. And he finds a house. He then goes to sleep in this house and is woken up by a girl who then tells him that somebody came in and chopped her head off and threw it in a pond and she can't get it. So then he dives into the pond to retrieve the head. And then there's this whole like thing where he's holding her head and then she's a skeleton in the bed. And then her head is a skull, but then it's not a skull. And then he leaves.
Yep.
The fuck was any of that about?
Okay. So the entire movie is about him becoming a knight, right? It's a test. Is he able to be this person, right? He's going to be the future king. King Arthur has no heirs. This dude's next in line to be the king, which we see. It's all about the 5 traditional knightly virtues, okay? Friendship, generosity, chastity, courtesy, and piety. So he's tested. Friendship is the fox, where he threatens it, chases it away.
We'll get to the fox.
Generosity is when he gives only a single coin to the scavenger after the guy has to say, hey, I helped you out. Are you going to help me out? There's a reason I'm out here picking coins off of dead bodies because I got no money. Help a brother out. He's obviously gets seduced by the lady later. When Sir Winifred, the lady without the head, asks for him to get the head for her, he's like, well, what am I going to get in return for that? And she's like, why would you ask me that? Why, what kind of question is that for a knight? There was the part where he like went to touch her and she's like, don't touch me. What are you doing? And then he does not want to attend the Christmas mass at the beginning. So that's the piety. Basically, he's not ready to be a knight. He's tested all the different assets of what it is to be a knight in all these interactions and fails miserably at every single one.
Okay, it was terrible. Somehow, in my view, gigantic plot hole, he leaves the house with the axe.
Yeah, the axe appears in the home.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I mean,
the guy,
there's a lot of things
the
that are like
scavenger
this.
stole the axe and then he just has the axe and it's not explained.
Sure.
And then, okay, he's just got the axe now.
Sure.
Okay.
And I mean, go ahead.
So then he's on his journey and there's a fox that's just following him around and that's his buddy. Okay.
I think
unexplained. We never talk about it. It's just a fox that's following him. Mm-hmm. The fox, by the way, horrific CGI.
They did so good with the Green Knight and doing practical effects.
I will say the Green Knight
is
cool,
beautiful.
Yeah, sick.
The fox CGI
not good,
terrible.
Yeah.
I think that the fox, and we will get to the old lady, but I think that the mother is, like I said, sent her son on this journey, and I think she's keeping an eye on him. I think the fox is her way of keeping her eye on her son. I think at the end, when he talks, we'll get there. She does say, come home, come back home to now. So I think that it is the mother.
Okay. I feel like I might miss some things here, but then him and the fox are just going.
Yep.
And then there's some giants.
Yeah, they eat the mushrooms at one point, and he thinks he sees moss on his hand. And then, as they're walking, the giants grab onto the cliffside and are walking and going wherever. and he can't finish his journey. He literally wants to ride on the shoulders of giants to complete his quest. Lazy. And obviously it's weird. It's out there. The fox kind of like scares him away because again, they probably would have just picked him up, put it on the shoulder, and just walked him there. But no, the fox needs Gawain to do this journey on his own. I loved it, but it's weird. It's out there. I'm not going to argue that.
It's insane. And unexplained, and just there's a big chunk of this movie that just feels like a fever dream.
It's a fantasy world. I mean, it's very clearly.
Well, look, man. We are not adverse or averse to fantasy worlds and medieval witchcraftery and such. None of this made any sense. I don't know if there was anything that I missed then in between, and then all of a sudden he wakes up at home, which is Joel.
He stumbles into house. It. Yeah, he stumbles into it. He finds it,
and so he just like is basically being saved by these nice charitable people who have a home on the countryside, I guess.
And he is famous. They do mention that. I mean,
how would he be famous? How would they know? They wouldn't know who he is.
I mean, it's been a year, and if someone came in and chopped the guy's head off, and I mean, the kids are watching a play about it. I mean, the story. Imagine the time. What stories are people telling? This is probably the most exciting thing that's happened in all times.
I don't know about that. I mean, I guess
this is an all-timer.
I guess maybe, but even still. So then we have this just kind of weird situation where we've got, the Joel Edgerton guy who's like got some real gay energy to him, but he's very nice.
He kisses him.
Well, he does kiss him. The gay energy manifests later on. We've got the Alicia Vikander character just being 12 out of 10 hot. I don't know if she's married to the gay guy. I don't know what's going on there exactly. And then we've got a blind old lady who's just being
never mentioned at all.
Just never talk about it or acknowledge any of it.
But she's wearing a white cloth across her eyes, just like the mother. And so I think that she's just, getting her spy on. She's just overlooking everything.
I guess. So then we have one of the more disturbing scenes of the movie where at some point, another scene that didn't make any sense, or another, thing that there's a lot of things in this movie that happen that you're like, oh, this is going to be important. And then it is never revisited, right? The fox is one, the giants, basically everything that happens in this movie, it never is revisited or explained or further analyzed. But one of them is so that he's been carrying around this bell, and then he wears it on his neck, and then he has a very sexually charged, tense scene where she like paints him, but it's some kind of a weird water upside down. I don't fucking know what the hell is going on in that scene, like most scenes. But then she's being she's kind of coming on to him, asking about, you're a knight, you must know love, whatever. She discovers the bell. And the bell was from his whore lover, basically. And he tries to play it off like, oh, it's nothing. And then she just takes it and she walks away. Bell is never mentioned or talked about again.
Yeah. And I think it is. I mean, the fact that it's the same actress, I think I don't know.
Man, that was some good makeup work, because I didn't pick that up. I actually did think at one point, and I did look up, I thought that the Alicia Vikander, the lady, was the same actress as the lady at the swamp house, the one who had her head chopped off and thrown in the pond. I had to look up to see if they were the same actress.
Oh no!
I never put it together that the whore and the lady were the same actress. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so the bell, though, they never revisit. It's just
Yeah, I think it's just going to show because once we get to the end, we'll get there. But he's doesn't care about Eskel as much as he did. He's growing. He's moving past her. So the fact that he's with this bell that he held onto so tight and was so worried about, and he's now able to just give it away and not be so clung on to it. It just kind of shows that he's moving on in the relationship and he doesn't care about her as much.
So we then have a scene where he's in bed and she comes into his room and asks why he didn't come bang her in her quarters. And he says, I don't know, I was being a dumbo. And then we have this very strange, almost sex scene.
Mm-hmm. Hot.
Almost. It could have been. Where she's kind of doing something and trying to offer him some like cloth rope thing that will be
it's the most important thing in the whole movie, but continue.
Yeah, it's the most important thing in the movie that they don't barely explain or talk about, and that he like comes in his own hand on all over it.
Yeah. So
great scene. Loved it. So cool. Great.
The belt
what the fuck are we doing?
The belt was given to him by his mother. It had a protection spell sewn into it that
by
she
his
put
mother?
into the belt. By his mother is where the belt came from. And so he was wearing it throughout the whole movie. Yeah. At the very beginning, when he's getting ready to go on his journey, she sews this thing in there, gets it going, gives it to him. And when he's wearing it, he's supposed to be protected from everything. And that's why at the end,
she gives it to him in the sex scene thing.
Yeah, but he had it before and he got it taken away, just like the axe. I think Barry Keoghan took it. And I think some weird
But then when she's explaining to it, it's like he doesn't know what it is.
He knows what it is. Because that's why he wants it back so bad. Because it's his protection. He knows if he wears that when he gets his head cut off, he should be fine. Something. Everyone's like, hey, you wear this, you're going to be good.
Fucking retarded. Sorry.
It's good. It's so symbolic and deep.
It's so bad. It's
loved
so
it.
bad.
The coming in the hand part is a little weird, but hey.
Hey, at least they showed it.
They showed.
What are we doing?
Yeah, that's the best part of the movie.
And then she tells him, "You're no knight," which is maybe
because again, he
failed the
challenge.
Maybe the best line of the entire movie. Just devastating. And
I think that's the last thing he says to her.
It's
what she says to him.
Gross and sucky. The worst scene. Anyways, so then he leaves. I don't know. The Joel Edgerton guy gives him the fox back or whatever.
Because he's a hunter and he caught it. And so he's like, here you go.
Here's your fox or whatever. And so then the fox starts talking, of course. Why wouldn't the fox talk? So fucking stupid. And then he shows up at the Green Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sits there for like a day or whatever until the Green Knight wakes up. And then we have the ending, which I don't hate.
Which you love because it's the best part of the movie.
No, I don't love it. I thought it was corny and
it's so good.
It's not good, but I don't hate it. It's okay. It's not good, but basically we have him being like a coward about getting his head chopped off, and he just runs away. Which, if that had been the end, if they hadn't revisited, it would have been disastrous. But he basically runs away,
and
the Green Knight doesn't like chase him or anything, and his horse is just there, and he runs away. And then it shows this kind of in a very quick succession all the horrible things that happen to him in his future, right? He has
no words are spoken this entire time. 20 minutes,
right,
no words.
Right. He has a baby with the whore lady, and then that son eventually gets like killed in war. The king and queen both die after they knight him for some reason, and they just die.
Because he's the heir to the throne.
So then he becomes the king, and so his son dies, and then all his people hate him or whatever, and his life sucks. So it's like he kind of realizes, like, if I don't die nobly here, my life is going to be cursed or whatever. And then he just tells the Green Knight to kill him, and then the Green Knight's very proud of him for being brave, but then decides to chop his head off anyways.
Well, it doesn't show that. We don't know that.
At least it can be assumed that is likely what he says. Off with your head now. But
He says, or he could say now, comma, off with your head. Off. Off you go with your head.
That's not how he says it.
Because he does a little slit too right there under his neck as he says it. That could be him just doing the repayment.
No, that's not how he says it. You're to assume that he gets his head chopped off is the most likely scenario there. So that's the movie.
I love the
Did
ending.
I miss anything?
I just think that the last 20 minutes is very impactful. It's where all the character growth happens. Again, we see him continually fail all these tests, and then he gets there. I love the fact that when he gets there and the Green Knight is just sitting there, and Gawain has to just sit and wait. He doesn't really know what to expect. He's just kind of coming into this, and he goes, "Okay, I'm here. Now what?" Like he's so curious what all this is, and he says, "Okay, let's do it. Let's cut your head off." And he says, "Is this really all this is?" And the Green Knight's like, "What else should it be? I told you this is what we're gonna do." And even as the audience are like, "Really? They're just gonna cut his head off?" And they're like, "Yeah, man, that was the game." And I just loved all of that. Again, the sash he's wearing is to protect him. I love that he runs away and we get to see his life just be miserable. And he's sitting there and he goes, wait. He takes off the green sash because he is actually brave enough and ready and prepared to die. I loved it. The movie, it begins with him and being a knight and or just being kind of famous was like the most important thing to him. Even the whores in the whorehouse, like, "Are you a knight yet?" And he's like, "No, I need more time. Like, I'm not ready yet, whatever," just kind of delaying it, kind of pushing it off, being a piece of shit. And then when he sees, okay, I'll become a knight and it's not that great. And then I'll become king and it's not that great. They're going to throw shit at me. I'm going to rip my child away from my wife, or not my wife, from my love at the time. And, it just, the heartbreak that he lives in is just this miserable, miserable life. But he has a moment right here to be a legend. There was the time at the very beginning of the movie where the queen says to him, "Look out at the round table, and what do you see?" And he says, "Legends." And she said, "Don't sit among them idly. Like, you are a legend as well." And this is his opportunity. His opportunity to be a legend wasn't being a wonderful king, because he's not. He's a dog shit king. He's not a good person. His chance to be a legend was this Christmas game, and he took it. And that was, his chance. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Okay. Thought it was the dumbest movie I've ever watched. Hated it.
Hell
Hated
yeah.
every second of it.
Hell yeah.
I couldn't.
Well,
I almost couldn't get through it.
Okay, so you don't like any. What's a fantasy movie that you like? You're not a big Lord of the Rings guy.
I love Lord of the Rings. I read the books. I love the movies. I didn't watch the Hobbit movies, but I read the Hobbit books.
Movies suck.
I just never. Yeah, I kind of always understood they sucked. I love fantasy stuff. I'm a big Game of Thrones guy. I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy.
You didn't like the Northman wasn't your thing.
The Northman also sucked.
This wasn't your thing.
And watching this movie made me think of the Northman a lot.
I figured.
Because I was like, this is equally as dumb as that movie. It's like all these things that you're talking about. It's just like it's forcing it. It just feels forced. None of it felt. The whole movie is pointless. Nothing in the movie that happens matters or makes none of it makes any sense.
It's just the future king of this country,
sure, of this country that doesn't exist. It's not a real country. It's not a real thing. It's not a real people. It's not. None of it actually happened.
It could be. I mean, King Arthur and Gawain. This comes from a poem that was found in the real world.
Okay, but no, it's none of it's real. It's all, like it's all just, it's all garbage, dude. It's fucking terrible.
Symbolic. They're metaphors.
But none of it makes any sense, and it's a 2 hour and 10 minute movie that could have been a 45 minute, like maybe 45 minutes of what happens in this movie has to do with what's happening in the movie.
No,
It's
that
all
last 20 minutes in silence is pure cinema. Pure
I don't
cinema.
I don't know that it was 20 minutes. It was
It's close.
maybe 15, but even still, it's just like, and that's the only part of the movie that maybe is okay. I just couldn't, man.
Hey,
The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking this is the dumbest movie I've ever watched.
I loved it.
Of a movie that is trying to not be bad, this is the worst movie. Like, because some movies are bad intentionally, or like you understand that they're going to be bad. Of a movie that like takes itself seriously and is trying to be good, this might be the worst one I've ever watched.
I knew that picking this movie, it wasn't going to be for you or for Keith, and that's why I was excited to pick it, and so we could have this conversation. I just think there is so many interesting plot points and so much character development. It's all on the shoulders of Dev Patel. I think his performance and his character are the main reason.
I mean, that's an important distinction and point to make about the movie, is that like I thought all the acting was incredible.
Yeah.
I thought the cinematography, the visual,
the music,
all the visuals, the music, it's all very good.
Yeah.
It's like it's a high quality, just incredible, production. But the things that are happening suck for 2 hours. And I hated it so much.
I loved it. I just think that we learned so much about this character, not through what we're told, but through how he acts and what he's doing when other people are doing
anything about him.
I think we do. I think one of the first things that we see is there's a fire that breaks out in the middle of the town, and he's sleeping in the whorehouse, completely unaware of what's going on. We see that he's spoiled. We just see a lot of negative characteristics about this guy. And it's kind of like I said, they push him out like, okay, go out into the world and see what kind of person you are. And he's just a piece of shit. And he makes a piece of shit.
But it doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
He could have just not gone. What would have happened if he just hadn't gone at all?
He would have been dishonorable and he would have died.
Who gives a shit? He was still dishonorable anyways.
No, well, not if he got his head cut off. He wasn't. He was an honor. He died honorably.
Well, you don't even know if he got his head cut off.
I know. You don't.
It's fucking dog shit. This movie sucks.
It's conversation, baby.
This movie sucks.
No, it's
this
awesome.
This movie sucks.
So much. I've said before, I like character stories where characters grow and go through things and challenges, and they come out a different person at the end.
Anything.
And that's exactly what this movie is. If you like this time period, I think the audience would love it. Just, you know what? Comment. If you've seen this movie, comment what you think. And I bet you we get more Green Knight Rocks comments.
I wish Keith was here.
I'll create fake accounts. I know. I was like I said, I was coming in planning to have to defend this a little bit more. I will say there are things about this movie that are stupid, or you do have to, bend your imagination and kind of make it work. I will say that. But that's not why I'm here. I don't care that the axe just shows up. I don't. Because stupid? Is it unexplained?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is stupid.
Sure.
And it's like in other movies that we've done, a movie we did last week, you pick apart little shit like that.
But that's a movie that takes place in the real world.
Where it's a huge fucking part of the story. You're just willing to be like, okay, yeah, now he just has the axe.
Well, because in this movie, there's giants and talking foxes.
Stole his fucking horse and axe and rode away, and we never see him again. and all of a sudden the axe is just there. It's what are we doing?
Yep. Well, she did say, "Hey, I just got my head cut off." What if Barry Keoghan is the one that came there and cut off her head? Left the axe there. You never know.
She wouldn't have had time to decompose.
Hey, look. Yeah, you're right. Look at that.
Yeah,
You're
because all of this happens in a very quick time. If
Yeah.
she wouldn't have decomposed in the bed.
Nailed
But
it.
anyways, it is funny that on IMDb More Like This, Northman is one of the movies that shows
I
up.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Dog shit movie as well. All right. I've got nothing else. I mostly just wanted to talk about how nothing in the movie made any sense. So
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were hosting and it was going to be a little shit on the movie fest. But again, for the people out there listening, I do strongly recommend this movie. And I can't wait to give it my review. But before we do that, we need to talk money. This is a post-COVID flick, probably one of the first ones post-COVID. Which
it
I'm
was
excited
pretty
to
early
talk about. Yeah.
post when things were real shut down.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's throw it to the money man, Mr. Luke Walker. Please make the dollars make sense.
So we've got a pretty modest budget, I'd say here. 15 million estimated budget, even for 2021. You know,
Damn.
a couple of years back, like that's pretty low. 15 million, not a lot, not a ton of CGI. I mean, there was some CGI. The CGI that was in it was bad, so that explains it. You know, they could have spent a couple million more and made that Fox look not so sucky. Opening weekend in the United States and Canada, which was in August of 2021, actually a pretty impressive 6.8 million, we'll call it. So, you know, just about, I don't know, 40% of the budget, like pretty good. And the gross worldwide box office was just shy of 19 million. So 15 million made 19 in the box office, obviously would have recouped some additional funds through the streaming rights and all that. So I think we'll give that a B. It's a pretty solid B.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I think it's tough, you know, movies that, like we said, movie theaters have died since COVID. I think it's so hard for movies.
Yeah, August of 21, movie theaters were still...
Yeah, tough. I think this is after Maverick, after Top Gun Maverick, maybe, but
just like a month or two after, maybe. Yeah, not much after.
And it's just, this is such a weird, interesting movie that it's hard to sell. You know, the Top Gun Maverick is easy to sell, easy to get meat in the seats. The you know, a night movie with Dev Patel is a lot harder, especially with all this, you know, fantasy and weird you know, elements to it. So I'm glad that it did make its money back, though.
I mean, I'm positive did not do as well as The Black Knight.
You gotta look it up. Martin Lawrence at his best.
I mean, dude, Martin Lawrence was on fire. 2001 movies in general were on fire. Let me see if I can pull up.
We should also do Rotten Tomatoes or Rotten Guesses for The Black Knight too, because I'm curious.
Oh, this is
gonna have better reviews.
This is actually pretty funny on The Black Knight.
Hit me with it.
The estimated budget of The Black Knight, which came out 20 years before The Green Knight, was $50 million.
They built all those sets, I'm sure.
A significantly more expensive movie that did gross worldwide 40 million. So it lost 10 million on the box office. I mean, I can't imagine how many tens of millions though it made in DVD sales.
Had to have, just been,
because I mean that movie was billions probably. I mean, The Black Knight, unquestionably a better movie than The Green Knight. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But anyways, those are pretty funny differences in numbers. I don't think we have a beer corners tonight since I fudged up the beer.
Yep.
So we'll get into Rotten Guesses.
I think it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you ready to play America's favorite game? Rotten Guesses.
I'm ready. And since I'm the host this evening, you will have to go first. Godspeed to you, fella.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a big old gap between what the critics think, the sophisticated, smart people, and what the heathens think, the audience. I think the critics are going to be much, much higher. I think they're going to have taste. They're going to have brains. They're going to have thoughts and be willing to look at this movie for what it is, which is a deep dive into the human psyche of Dev Patel. I think the audience is going to be a lot more like you, that get hung up on things like the walking giants and the talking foxes and the axes just appearing, and
just
a lot of different
movie,
things.
just like huge things that happen.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, for the critics, I'm going to say 85. I think that's a pretty solid score. Nothing setting the world on fire. Again, this is 2021, before every movie came out, and was a 96. So I'm going to go 85 critics. And I'm going to say audience 60. I think the people who hated it really, really hate it. And I don't think enough of your everyday Joe Schmoes loved it.
Well, now I'm going to have to try to box you out, because everything you said there as far as rotten guesses goes, the game, that's kind of what I was thinking. I thought the critics would be a little higher, the audience would certainly be lower. It's a very tough one. I'm gonna go critics even a little lower, though. I'm gonna go with an 81 critics. That's the tomato meter. And I'm gonna go audience. Man, I guess I'll even go lower. I'm going to go audience 55.
Damn.
The popcorn meter. Because I think most people will be siding more with me than, Oh, you ready?
I am ready. What do we got?
I think I got the sweep this week. No, wait. No. Sorry. You'll get the tomato meter. The tomato meter, the critics, with only 331 critical reviews, which is not a lot for a movie that's 5 years old. An 89.
Oh.
A certified fresh 89.
Hell yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
That puts me, 4 away?
Yeah, and I was, 8 or so away? So you got that one. The popcorn meter, the people, with 1,000+ verified reviews. A 50.
Oh, that's not good.
That's not good for you on that guess.
Got me 10 away there.
Right, and I had it much closer. What did I say? 55? Yeah. So, So we were spot on with the gap, and a pretty healthy gap. That's one of the more healthy gaps you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly a 40-point gap between critics and audience. Yeah, man. People who watched this movie thought it sucked.
Some people, the idiots. So let's get into our reviews. I'm going to go ahead and go first. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This movie is awesome. I love the way it looks. I love the way it sounds. I love the font. We didn't hit on that. All the chapters all pop up, and they've got the cool font that's like kind of hard to read, but also looks really badass and just kind of puts you in the vibe.
Yeah, I hated that.
I loved it. I love all the characters. I loved the ending so much. Again, I just thought it was an awesome deep dive into this guy who's kind of a lazy piece of shit. And what happens when he's put into power? He fails. What happens when, he has a son, but he's with a prostitute? He's banging prostitutes. Can he make the prostitute the queen? No, he can't commit to her. There's just so many things about his character that just show he's this bad guy, just this not outstanding, honorable person that he is kind of portraying himself to be. And then when he finally sees that and says, you know what? No, now is the time to step up, be a man, and fucking, get your head chopped off. He steps through and falls through and does it. And then I love the fact that it leaves it ambiguous. We don't know. Did he get his head chopped off? Did he not? And I think that because maybe he doesn't get his head chopped off, and then he goes back and becomes a good leader, where he's not a piece of shit and he does lead a successful, country, and it's all good. Maybe that's just what he needed, and that's what his mom sent the Green Knight in the first place. There's so much what if and kind of makes you think, and movies that stick with me after I watch them like that are what I'm looking for. Are there some holes? Absolutely. But I think about this movie a lot, and when I think about it, I love looking back on it. I think this is an amazing movie. I'm going to give it a 9.1. I loved it.
I don't agree with a single word he said. This movie was an abomination. It was almost immediately unwatchable for me. It took everything I had to actually finish the movie. I hated it. I wanted it to be over almost immediately. I thought almost everything that happened in the movie didn't make sense or was unnecessary or was dumb. I don't like a movie where the only way that it makes sense is if you go and like do a bunch of research and background, like, trying to figure out what it means. I don't like that. Like, if all of these things had been explained at some point in the movie, sure, that's cool. But the fact that none of it was explained, nothing that happens is ever revisited or talked about or acknowledged. Just a bunch of random shit happens. It feels like for about an hour and a half of the movie, it's just a fever dream where the most random thing that you could imagine happening is happening. I hated this movie. I will give it a 4.5. I'm exploring my range.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if I had been exploring my range a little deeper with the Northman, I would have given it a worse score than a 4.5. I think this movie was on par with the Northman, but slightly better. But these are the two movies I think that we've done that were movies that were trying to be good and serious movies that suck and would have been the lowest scores for me. I hated this movie. And even so, that just tells you my like range, that even a movie that I hate, I can't go much lower than 4.5. Because there were good, like I said during the episode, the acting is good. The production value is very good. It's a very like watchable movie, but everything that happens is absurd and sucks. So,
well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there we go. That might be Luke's lowest rated review of all time, and one of my higher rated reviews of all time. And that is why we do the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on next week's episode of A Beer and Review. Luke, cheers.
Cheers.